Congressman Jeff Stein filling in for Todd. Good to talk to you again, sir.
Hey, Jeff, it's great to be able to talk to you again.
You know, just before the top of the hour, we were talking about government waste, et cetera. Now you've got some real champions in this DOGE effort, which I think is the biggest, greatest troll on folks on the left possible. Department of Government Efficiency. What's different about this than any other time that you and others have said, hey, let's cut some of the waste? What's the chance that this is going to be successful?
Well, I think there's a lot of enthusiasm around this. You know, with President Trump actually tapped Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to actually address this and to make it part of the center of what's going on in the administration. You know, our debt's at $36 trillion now, and it's shameful. It's not sustainable. I mean, we're spending so much that's hurting our economy and hurting. We can't even have enough money to buy the services and benefits that we need. And it's not just the amount of outspending, but it's also the regulations that affect us and slow down business, slow down individuals. President Trump, when he was in office before, actually cut 8 regulations for every one that he added. Versus if you look at President Biden, he spent $1.37 trillion in new regulations that are coming in. It was about 45 times more than what President Trump did and about 5 times more than what President Obama did. So there's a lot of focus here in Congress. We're excited about this. The DOGE caucus that's been organized by Aaron Bean from Florida and Congressman Pete Sessions from Texas are, focusing on what we can do to help make this happen. Because it's going to entail not just some executive actions and some decisions on the executive side, but also on the legislative side. And we're looking at there's lots of opportunities out there for bloat and waste and fraud. And I use this one as a reference is that there's about 2 billion executive branch employees that aren't part of the armed services. And if you compare that to the number of employees in the legislative branch, there's about 1% of that. So we've got such a huge executive branch, and it's not supposed to be that way. And so we've got our work cut out for us to go out and address this and help rein in this excessive spending.
One of the things, Congressman Estes, is that we hear people like Musk and Ramaswamy talking about big dollar amounts, but really, we do need that, but it's, as you just mentioned, it's attitude, right? It's the attitude of saying every nickel, every dollar matters, and even though it may not be a big splashy thing, you start taking little steps that you don't need some big program to carry out, you're going to pretty soon get some fair amount of money that is saved, and every little bit helps when you've got a debt, like you said, that's just going to cripple this country.
That really is. I mean, there's programs that have been in existence for decades, and now we're in the 21st century. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all the technology tools that we have today, and yet we still are running the same old programs and things that just don't make sense anymore. We've got to start reining that in. We've got to start looking at what makes sense moving forward, and at some point, we also need to be looking at what should we be doing at the federal government level? I know we had decades where the United States was the big economy in the world, and you could afford a little bit of lax in your austerity and managing your budget. But it's not that way anymore. As China and other companies have gotten more competitive in their economy, we can't tie our hands and tie the impact of what American citizens can do and what we can do to make America strong.
Ron Estes represents the 4th District of Kansas in Congress from his home base in Wichita, and he's kind enough to join us on the Todd Starn Show on the Patriot Mobile Newsmaker line. Jeff Stein filling in for Todd today. I find it interesting, Congressman, shifting topics, that even Democrats can't stomach this pardon of Hunter Biden. And I found it interesting today. I'm going to read you a quote from a White House official and then get your response. A White House spokesperson told Fox News Digital that Biden is making every day of his term count, leading by example for the sake of American democracy. I'm just trying to figure out how pardoning your son and potentially pardoning all manner of co-conspirators is, well, it's certainly making every day of the term count, but certainly not for the sake of American democracy.
Yeah, that's a terrible legacy that President Biden's going to leave for himself, because if he thinks this is a positive indication of what he's doing, I mean, we just looking at this Hunter Biden pardon, recognizing that we can't trust what Joe Biden says. I mean, his promise not to pardon his son just was a blatant lie, and it was so egregious, as you said, that even Democrat senators and Republican and representatives and governors are crying that he should not pardon Hunter for every action he did since 2014. And President Biden's been quoted in the past as saying that no one's above the law. However, with this pardon, he did prove that if your last name is Biden, you are above the law.
Do you think they even care about the public reaction as additional pardons are being contemplated? Because they're floating out all manner of names, some from the January 6th committee, some tied to the family. My sense is that Joe's Christmas shopping list is simply going to be pardoned about everybody he can think of because the consequences aren't going to affect him in the least. And he doesn't care about the legacy and doesn't care about what it does to his fellow Democrats.
No, it really is sad. I mean, the pardon power of the president is pretty powerful, and it should be used in cases where there's really been cases of abuse or mistakes or changes that make sense. In this particular case, it's just being used as a slush fund and a political tool. And I hate to think that that's the legacy that Joe Biden wants for his presidency after his long years of service in the House and the Senate and in the Oval Office. And it's terrible that that's the approach he's taken.
I want to ask you about a couple of other things. Congressman Ron Estes of Kansas joining us on the Todd Starnes Show. A lot of folks are paying attention to the impending government shutdown, and I want to know your thoughts about what's the path forward to get this moved ahead. But a lot of folks, unless you're in Kansas or Iowa, you may not realize that we've gone more than a year without a 5-year farm bill, and we have no extension for the second time. The extension would be for the second time. I mean, this is dire stuff for the people you represent.
Yeah, it really is. You mentioned about the continuing resolution expires December 20th, and I think that'll be extended. I think as part of that process, there's a recognition that we need to at least extend the current farm bill. But I've got to compliment my friend G.T. Thompson, who actually led the House side on getting a farm bill passed with Republican and Democrat votes on the House side. Unfortunately, it got caught up in the Senate, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any movement. We're running out of time for this year for the Senate to do anything productive around that. And there's literally issues that are almost a matter of survival for some of the folks in our agriculture communities with the Biden inflation that's been out for the last 4 years, the price of grain, fertilizer, and diesel fuel. All of those input costs have gone up, and it's really a burden on the farmers throughout the heartland of America.
And something that, and you'll know the number, I'm just guesstimating here, but it's at least 2/3 of any quote-unquote farm bill doesn't go to the farm. It goes to provide food to people across the country, folks who the title is, or the designation is, food insecure. So the reality is this is not just for farmers. More of it goes to folks in big cities, actually.
Yeah. It's the SNAP food stamp program is actually over 80% of the spending in the farm bill. And, I sometimes say it should be called the farm and food stamp bill. The sad part about that is because that's a automatic spending program, it doesn't go away if the farm bill were ever to lapse. The SNAP food stamp program doesn't end. So it's just the support for the farmers to grow and produce the food that people need, whether you're getting it through SNAP food stamps or whether you're getting it having to pay for it out of your own pocket at the higher inflation prices that people are having to face now.
Congressman Ron Estes, 4th District of Kansas, thank you so much for the great conversation as always. Hope you and yours have a very Merry Christmas, sir.
Well, great. I wish you Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays again.